So I think there's this kind of myth that creative people do not need to be organized or are like too type B to be organized and have a system and a productivity method, but that's not true. I think especially for screenwriters. We need a method to organize our ideas. We need a method to structure our scripts, to hold the information so that it doesn't get lost. And we need some way to tell ourselves whether we're on track or falling behind so we can meet our deadlines. While I don't think productivity should be toxic or a way to shame yourself because you don't write enough or as often as you should, I do think it's an important part of making sure your project is actually good and meeting deadlines when you're doing this professionally. So the best system is the one that we actually use and the one that's conducive to our writing style. If you're the person that's always going to be writing on the go, you're in coffee shops, you're on your commute, you're in your car, you're at the park while your kids are playing, you need something portable. So something like physical index cards or post-it notes or something that's very tactile, while helpful for some people, isn't necessarily going to be helpful for you if you don't have space to spread out. If you're a very visual learner or very tactile like I am, then something physical and analog like index cards or post-it notes might be helpful for you. If you're going to be on the go, you want to make sure you have something that syncs really easily and that you can keep with you no matter where you are. So something that's accessible from your phone or an iPad or your laptop that you can carry around. If you go the analog route, that's totally fine, but you want to make sure you have a method of saving and archiving your information so that nothing gets lost. We don't want dogs eating your homework. We don't want water getting on all of your cards and then you can't read them later. Make sure you have a method for archiving everything. So today we're going to dig into all of this and more about how you get it done. So question one is, do you have a method for organizing and saving your ideas? Some people have an everything document, a massive Google Doc with all of their notes, or an app like Miro or Milanote where you can keep all of the information for one project in one place. And there's a synced folder system. This can be in Google Drive, Dropbox, or just on your computer with a way to back it up that has folders for your characters, folders for drafts, folders for outlines, folders for beat sheets, and you separate it like that. As long as you have a way to save all your information, cool. Then there are app solutions. I already mentioned ones like Milanote and Miro boards, but you might use things to organize your project like RStudio or Notion, Scrivener, and other tools to house all of the information for your project. Again, whatever you want to use, you want to make sure it's easy to sync between devices so that you don't have outdated information if you tend to switch devices or if you're on the go. In the actual break process, there's also organization tools in pretty much every screenwriting software to help you make index cards or outlines for your project. You can check Final Draft, Fade In, Writer Duet, RStudio, all of those. I personally use Notion to organize my ideas and kind of disparate thoughts, and I recently switched to RStudio for my actual draft because it's just so easy to carry my iPad around instead of my laptop and everything syncs really easily. But in the past, I've used Fade In and used their index card feature as well. When I have an actual office, I tend to do index cards on a corkboard, and I just take photos of the corkboard at the end of every day to make sure that I have an archive of where I left off. But as I've been moving around for the past few months, I have gotten more digital with my process. So choose whatever method makes more sense for you. So that brings me to the last option, which is like physical media, right? Index cards, post-it notes, notebooks, things like that. And eventually you will need to type it up, so make sure you have that figured out. So the key is to have a system that we can easily back up and make searchable. So if that's a physical notebook, you might want to have an index that makes it easier for you to figure out where things are located in your notebook. If it's something digital, we want something that's easily searchable so we can find things by keywords and easily find our place when we need it. So really what you need is a central place for every project, one that's really easy to add to. So if you're on the go, if you have an idea while you're drinking your coffee or on the subway, you can just add it really quick, right? It needs to be easy to search and navigate so you can find things later, and it needs to be accessible from anywhere. So you might be like, if I'm doing index cards, how is that accessible from anywhere? I used to have those like index card folders for flashcards that they give to students in like middle school. So you can use that if you want to bring your cards with you somewhere. There are also apps that kind of mimic the feeling of index cards or post-it notes that you can use, like Super Note Card, for example. So we know how we're going to organize our ideas and our process while we're writing. At the end of the process, we also want to think about who do we tend to share our work with for feedback. Do you have a few people in your life that you trust to give you feedback on your early stage drafts? If you don't, you can outsource this by finding a consultant or a reader. There are plenty of services, or you can join a writer's group if you don't currently have one. You can always join the SVA lab. We do workshops every month, but we want to have an idea of who we're sharing our drafts with and how much time those people need to read and then get feedback back to us so that we can incorporate that into our writing plan. Question 3 is, how long does it usually take you to write? It's a pretty general question and one that's going to take you writing a few times in order to actually figure it out, but it's helpful to know sometimes what parts of the process take the longest for you. If outlining and blue skying and break are really, really quick, but your draft takes freaking forever, then those are things to keep in mind when you're building your schedule. For example, I have a goal to finish a draft by the end of January 2026. I know that I tend to spend a lot of time in the blue sky phase and breaking my pilot, but the actual drafting is pretty quick for me, just because I've trained as a TV writer and we have to write fast. So based on that information, it's a reasonable goal for myself. If I were writing a feature, however, that takes me a lot longer, and I know that I'm probably going to give myself a few months for that, honestly. So the end of January would be an unrealistic expectation for myself. So just having a general idea of how long it takes you to do certain things is going to make it easier to refine your writing plans and processes over time. But if you don't have this information about yourself yet, don't worry. You can just keep this in the back of your head as you're writing your next project, and then you have the information moving forward. Question 4 is, what derails your writing progress? What distractions get in your way when you're trying to write? Is it social media? Is it your kids or your pets? We love them, but sometimes we can't focus around them, right? Is it household tasks that suddenly seem very, very urgent every time you try to sit down and write your script? Is it research rabbit holes or ideas for other projects? What are the distractions that keep popping up and slowing down your work? Once we name them and know what they are, we can start trying to block them. If it's your phone, you can put it on airplane mode or in another room. I know people who literally will lock their phone in a box in another room. You can use apps to set timers around specific apps to block you from accessing those apps for a certain period of time. You can use your laptop but disconnect it from the internet so that you can't browse or get pop-up notifications that are going to distract you. It's interruptions or noise from the background or wherever you are that tends to distract you. You can go to a room with a closed door. You can get noise-canceling headphones or write in a separate environment from the distraction. So going to a coffee shop or a co-working space with a phone booth so that you can kind of be in your own little isolation zone, or create a space within your home that's kind of like a hands-off, this person is writing zone, so that people know not to bother you in there. If it's shiny new ideas that tend to distract you, that is something I experience because I have ADHD. One thing that helps is just to have a document where you can throw those ideas so that you're not like shutting them down or trusting yourself to just remember it later, but you're not allowing yourself to fall down the rabbit hole, right? Just write it down so that you have it saved somewhere and you can always come back to it later. If it's commitments in your life like work or friends or pets or kids, setting some boundaries around your time is really helpful. Marking yourself busy in your calendar, putting actual calendar blocks in that you're going to be writing and setting yourself busy, making sure that your partner or a friend or a sitter is there to take care of your pets or your kids or whomever, so that you can have some focused time to write. Treating your writing time like a dentist appointment, something that you can't miss. You have a boundary set to know that you need to focus on your writing for that period of time. It's something that you set and you schedule, and you can reschedule it, but you cannot cancel it, right? You have to protect your writing time, otherwise it's never gonna get done. In the comments, let me know what distraction might derail you and what you plan to do to fix it.